And now it's time to look at something that's a little bit less involved than our last video. And today that is Tobot Tritan, the new Tritan from 2023, which I'm looking at in 2024. And yeah, there's an Astrid just off screen. Hey, honey. Hi there. Oh, you got the sneezes? She's got the sneezes. Anyway, yes, today we're looking at Tritan, and much like non-2023 Tritan, I guess classic Tritan, this is a co-polymer combiner, so it's 3 vehicles that combine to make a robot. They do not have individual robot modes, and it's similar to the original version in that it's 3 vehicles, hence why it's called Tritan, you know. But these are derived from the 2023 versions of Tobot X, Y, and Z. And okay. And as you can, honey, can you please? As you can see, here they are in their slightly smaller than the regular figures form. I honestly don't. Oh, I was going to say I don't remember who's who, but they have handy labels and the license plates. I mean, I know Tobot Z because I have the regular version of Z, but yeah, we've got X and Y. So I guess let's do this. So here we've got X, Y, and Z all lined up. Okay. Z is the big one, as you do. What annoys me about this set is, as it compares to the original, not original, but like the regular kind of standalone figures, is that X, Y, and Z they are colored like blue, orange, and red. But not in the same way they are here. I believe X is orange, Y is blue, and Z is definitely red. I know Z is red because I have Z. And so it's just a little bit like, okay, so you've got the same colors, but now they all have different colors, and I don't know, it's weird and kind of annoying to me because it's the exact same, maybe not exact same tones, but like it's the same color scheme of blue, red, and orange, but they just changed who's blue, who's red, and who's orange, and it's like, why? You could have just left them as is, but whatever. I can't think of a single Tobot combiner that actually keeps any of the vehicles their original colors for the combine mode, unless it's the rarity where it's like a vehicle that has a robot mode and combines. But like for the copolymer stuff, they always seem to like to change the colors for some reason. And it just seems so silly, especially when they have the exact same color schemes. But anyway, moving on, because I've been talking about this one little nitpick of mine for way too long. Also, Astrid is still just off camera. Tobot X is this cute little blue sedan. The paint and color separation is pretty nice. I like that the zoom in, not out. I like that the windows all the way around are black. You also get this kind of really dark gray trim going around the fenders and along the trim along the sides, silver for the rims, and the grille and headlights and little Hyundai logo are all picked out, including the little license plate there. And even around the back, there's some nice detailing back there for the tail lights and whatnot. So good detailing on X. The same could pretty much be said for Y, where you've got, I mean, forgot to fold those in. You've got the obvious, robot junk underneath, but like, yeah, I like that, again, the windows are separated out. The taillights are painted, the rear bumper is painted, the rims are silver, the front with like the grille and the headlights and all that is painted, so they did, again, a good job with this. I also think it's cool how they use this transformation hinge as like a sunroof, or a whatever you want to call it. I don't know, I think that's neat. And also the underside of Tobot X is also kind of robot junk. And then Z underside is, I wonder what he turns into. And again, similar love for the paint with like the black all the way around on the windows. The taillights are done, the Hyundai logo again, silver on the rims, and then the detailing in the front as well, along with the license plate. I do think it's kind of cool too how they all have different rim designs. Like they're all picked out in silver, but they all have different wheels, which I don't know, I think that's cool. Z is the most compromised in vehicle mode because of these hinges with, how it transforms. It's fine. And really, it's not all that dissimilar from the main, like the full-size figure with having weird, unsightly hinges along the sides, but it just bugs me that they made the red one orange when one of them is already red. But oh well. Now, size-wise, these are smaller than the typical figures because they're for the co-polymer combiner. So let's try and how do we arrange this? Because there is an Astrid who's just kind of, again, just chilling, just right here. Hey, honey, want to say hi? Want to say hello? Boop, boop, boop. Okay. Anyway, let us move on with size comparisons, because I know I can be extremely wordy. I feel like I don't say anything worthwhile, but it just keeps going. And also, as a reminder for anyone who maybe missed the explanation, we're using Buzzworthy Dinobot now for size comparisons as our Voyager class because Generation Select's Artfire has gone the way of the eBay sales, just because of, shelf space and money, basically, the usual stuff. So here are all of the Tobot vehicles with the standard size comparisons. So you can see that they are not small, but like small for Tobots. I'd say X and Y are roughly deluxe size in vehicle mode, maybe like a big deluxe. And then Z is probably closer to like liter size vehicle mode wise. And this is like pointless comparisons really, because Tobots do not operate on the same scale or price point as other mainline Hasbro figures. But let's bring in the full-size Tobot Z from 2023, so you can see like the reds are very slightly different compared to Tobot Y. This red is just a little bit brighter, but like it's so close, and they could have just made this guy the red one. But there you can see how Z is definitely bigger. The proportions, though, are different. I thought that was interesting, how Tritan's Tobot Z is a little bit more stretched out, or I guess it's more fair to say that the regular version of the figure is a little more squished in. But that is how those shake out. Are you done, honey? Is it time for you to go? Does your planet need you? And for some slightly more contemporary, or I guess not contemporary, because Tobot Z is actually more contemporary at this point, but for some other Tobot combiner comparisons, here is Troll. These things are too big to do together, but like there's Troll with the 3 components of Triton, and then Troll out of the way. And here is Big Trail. So you can see how those all measure up together. And get Big Trail out of the way. And finally, for the size comparison everyone has been waiting for. I'm sorry I made you hold your breaths for that long. Here is everybody, all the components of Triton with the duck tank. Alright, now before we combine and transform these 3, If you like this video or any of the other videos that I've done on the channel and you're interested in supporting me, which would be much appreciated, but is not wholly necessary, I do have Patreon and a coffee, links to both down in the description as well as at the end of the video. Otherwise, you could always do the typical YouTube thing of like, comment, share, subscribe. With all of that out of the way, let us transform these. And we're going to start, I guess, from the bottom and work our way up. So for Z, very simple. Just want to disconnect these two sections in the front here. Those just pop out. And then they double hinge back and click into the sides here, just like that. These pieces down here, you can push here to flip this out, and flip that around until it clicks into place. You can rotate this section forward, bring this back. I find 3 clicks is the magic number. That was 2 clicks, so 1, 2, 3. And then extend, and then split the legs, and there we go. That is Tobot Z all transformed. Then we move on to X. And X does some cool stuff. So we want to disconnect the entire top part of the car. I find it's best to just kind of use the side mirrors to grip and pull up, and it'll unplug from here, these 2 bits down here, and also there are these little clips right in here. So bring that out, and then pull this section out. It's on an armature. It does clip in. There's a little thing here that clips in there. So pull this out, swing it up, and now these clips on either side will clip into these bits here, like so. Now we can rotate this upside down, bring these wheel arches up, rotate this whole section back around, and now these clips on the underside here will clip into the back here. And then we can bring these back down. Now you want to take this big, ugly orange piece and flip that up and out of the way. Take these little bits here, and these will actually push in on either side, like so. And we will just leave this as is and come back to that. And now for Y. I just think Y's transformation is fun because you start by splitting him in half, but it's like you fillet it open like a fish. So you just unplug this, and it opens up like that, just on this little armature here. I just think that's really funny. And now with this open, we can swing this armature out on either side. Then we can use this hinge to swing it out again. So we're left with something like this. And I love how this compacts and this joint becomes the sunroof. I just think that's really cool. Now, I want to disconnect this piece from here. It just kind of sort of plugs in up here. And this swings down on either side. Then you rotate the arms. And lastly, the thing I always forget to do when going back into car mode, you pop out little fists. And there we've got arms. And now to put everything together, I want to take X here and Z, and these 2 will slide together. There's little bits on the side here, this little track here. And this will just slide in and click into place. And that will lock in pretty darn solidly. I also think it's cool how, we'll get into this more in articulation, but this front flap here is like a little hip skirt thing. And I think it's cool how there's this perfect little cutout in the front here. So when you slide these together and click them in, this piece just like moves up and into that hole or cavity without hindering the actual movement of this piece. I just think that's really cleverly engineered. Okay. So with that done, now we can do the last bit of it. So now we've got this track back here, and that is where this armature goes. So you want to, we'll do this. It's unsightly, but it's just to keep it on camera. So this will come down, and it will go into this track here, but now these legs are in the way. There. So now this comes down and settles into this track, and there are these little grooves on either side and these little kind of nubbins on the now you can kind of see them here and here, and those will go into those grooves. So when those are lined up and pushed in, this will not be able to slide around. And now, the last little bits of it, you want to grab the obvious head and pull up, and it'll click when you get it all the way up. And now the entire platform that the head sits on down here swings around, and it'll actually cover up the armature here. So now that armature cannot come out, which I think is really cool. And finally, this piece comes down and will plug in down here. And I feel like this piece is somewhat unnecessary. I think it's probably here so that that platform won't be able to turn when you try and turn the head in the combine mode, but it's still just, I don't know. It would have been nice if maybe it wasn't bright orange at least. But lastly, you fold out the little ear wings, and that's it. That is Tobot 2023 Tritan in full combine mode. And this is a pretty cool looking robot with some things that I'm kind of like about, but I've come around to them. The color separation is good. I like the fact that the same blues, reds, and oranges are used all over the place. So for Tobot Z's orange, you get it in the legs and waist, but you also get a little bit up here, which I feel like maybe if they put it in the arms instead would have been nice, but whatever. The red for Y, you of course get in the arms, but you also get some in the legs. And then the blue for X, you get in the torso, in the arms, and in the legs. So it does bring that color cohesion kind of all over the place. And of course now you've got white that appears in a bunch of different places, and black as additional accent colors. So it all works color-wise. There's some nice molding and sculpting to it. I do think it's kind of cute that they have XYZ molded in different parts on like the insides of the legs and on the side here. It's silly, but I appreciate it. It's cute. So yeah, like the detailing, sculpting is nice. The proportions, aside from what's going on here, I think are pretty good. The thing that really bugs me about this guy is like this, for one, and then also the shoulders, but there's a thing we can do about the shoulders. I'll get into that later. Yeah, overall, aside from the grill diaper, it looks pretty cool. The one other thing that does kind of bug me a little bit about this, though, is they kind of... I feel like the way they built this, they should have done it slightly differently, because the design cohesion is a little thrown off, because you've got Tobot Z and Tobot X, the fronts of the vehicles are just right there on the front of the robot. But for Tobot Y, the front of the vehicle is, well, that's actually the back. The front of the vehicle is on the fists. And so because of that, you lose a little bit of that pattern that they kind of had going here. I feel like if there was a way to do it, and I feel like there could have been, it would have made sense to have the front of the vehicle as the shoulders rather than the fists. So just basically reverse the placement and then have this slot in the other way around so that the front of the vehicle is pointed forward along with X and Z there. And I feel like that just would have been a more cohesive design, and it would also have led to cleaner looking shoulders than what's going on here. I can only assume they did it this way because that affords the extra motion forward here, but that's kind of pointless because the arm can do this, so I don't really understand that. But it is what it is. And then doing like a quick 360, you can see it's pretty clean, all things considered. You got big chunks of Z on the backs of the legs, which are a little unsightly, but I don't know. I like the big boots look, and this gives him massive heels. Like, he is not... Yeah, he's in more danger of falling forward than backwards. So yeah, it's pretty clean, all things considered. And here you can see you've got much more of like the Y vehicle mode visible right there. Again, I think if they could have just brought some of Y's vehicle mode to the front of the robot mode, it would have made this whole thing a little more cohesive. But they didn't do that. Now, let's move on and look at that head. And the head it's Tobot Tritan's head, more or less. It's been, like, I never owned the original Triton. I had the Triton Mini. I don't have many more, unfortunately, so I can't make that comparison. But it is reminiscent of that head sculpt. You've got the wings along the sides here. I like the color separation, how you have the blue and then the gold for the ear tips. Of course, the helmet itself is primarily white, and then you've got black for the faceplate, and it's just black. There's no like eyes or anything in there, which I think actually works fine. I think this works with the kind of classic and maybe not the new modern Tobot aesthetic, like the 2023 Tobot aesthetic, because they do have eyes. Like if we let me just borrow Tobot Z's head real quick. Like they do have eyes, so it doesn't quite work with that aesthetic, but it works more with the classic Tobot aesthetic. So I'm fine with that. But yeah, colors for the head are nice. I like how it's stands out on the top there. So good stuff. Now the articulation is interesting on this guy. It's actually pretty. It's got a pretty full suite of articulation, but it's a little bit fiddly in places. So like the head can only turn 45 degrees. It cannot turn any further than this, and it kind of clicks into place. But there is enough play, like not play, but like you can actually cheat the ratchets, so you can turn it a fair bit before it snaps into place. So you're not stuck at only turning it at 45 degrees. So that's good. And I feel like, you're not really going to need to turn the head more than this anyway. For the shoulders, as you saw, they go all the way around. This is as far out as as far in as they go. They can go out, but this is where things get a little tricky, because if you bring them out like this, you can see it pops this up, and you can't just like smush it back down. But what's weird is this shoulder doesn't do that. Okay, this shoulder didn't do that. I don't know what's happening. Basically, yeah, bringing these shoulders up pop this out of place, and that's a little irritating. However, something you can do is you can pop that up, and if you angle this all the way back, it actually gives you enough space to continue turning the head. So if you wanted to, like here you can kind of see turning the head makes that plate rotate, so you kind of got to be mindful of that. But that plate locks this in place, so you don't have to worry about this getting jostled out of the robot, and that allows you the better outward articulation. So you can do that and just treat this as like part of the design if you want to do that without worrying about popping that thing out. So that's an option. As mentioned, you can swing the arms forward here, but they can only go, like they can go forward to 90, but like that's it. You get a bicep rotation, you get 90-degree bend at the elbow, and there are detents, but you can cheat the detents. So you've got like these 45-degree angles, but you can kind of game them a little bit. The elbows, yeah, you can game the elbows too. So the ratchets aren't so stiff that you can't, kind of get around them, which I appreciate. Now for the hips, and as mentioned, this gets out of the way and cleverly goes inside there, which is cool. The hips can go forward. To get the knee pad out of the way, they can go forward to about 90. If the knee pad is in the way, that's as far as they're going before that clashes. So something to be mindful of. Can go back to pretty much 90. Can go out past 90. You get a thigh swivel. And the hip ratchets you can't really game. These are a little too clicky for gaming them. So yeah, you're not gonna game the hip ratchets. The knees can bend to 90, and you also can't game them, but there's so many detents, it's not really a problem. And if you want to, for whatever reason, like for slightly more leaning forward heroic poses or whatever, you can actually start to bend the knees forward. So you could do like some kind of leaning heroic, like pelvic thrusting heroically forward type poses. I tend to just leave them straight, but yeah, it's a thing. And that is it for the articulation. You can move the toes, but like this is way too loose to really work for articulation. But you could potentially do it if you had like the foot coming forward and you wanted it to look like he was bouncing on it. Kind of bring that down. And because of this click here, you can at least have him balance on this a little bit. But that is the extent you're going to get out of those feet. There we go. Nope. There we go. Now, the shoulders, they are unsightly, as I mentioned. I am not the biggest fan of those shoulders, but I watched Soltron's video on this figure, which I'm going to try to remember to put the link there. And he pointed out a thing you can do with this that makes the shoulders look so much better, and it doesn't even really affect articulation at all. You could just bring the bicep swivels out and bring those in. And that's it. And that is a much better look for Tritan, I think. It's actually like, it actually solves the one thing that was bugging me about his design too, with the, how unfortunately plain this looked. Like just bringing that in a little bit, you get more of the red and like vehicle mode, actual like visual vehicle mode for Y in the design now. So that actually looks more cohesive with what's going on in the center here. It gives you more interesting color in the shoulders. And as I said, it doesn't really affect articulation either. Like you can still rotate the shoulders around. You can still use the biceps, the elbows and all that. The in and out motion is, you could still do that. You got to kind of be a little mindful of the tire there, but you can get around it. So yeah, I don't know, it looks good. I actually really like this this orientation for the shoulders. I think it makes a significant difference in how the figure looks. So you can get a little dynamic with him, but I also feel like you don't necessarily have to because this is a Tobot combiner. But like this, he looks cool. This actually, it bulks out the upper body so much, it makes this look a lot less like a diaper to me. I still wish there was, this wasn't necessarily the front with this giant fan grill right there, front and center. But when you've got so much other obvious vehicle stuff happening in like the upper body, I feel like this blends together so much better. So there we have all of that. And now let's do our last round of size comparisons. But like, look at that. Doesn't he look really freaking cool like that? He does, right? That is cool. Even with this. Like, I no longer even notice that. But anyway, let's bring in our standard size comparisons because, he's a Tobot combiner, so of course he's going to get rather big. So here we've got our standard size comparisons. You can see that he's big, of course, because of course he's big. That's how these kinds of things go. He is not the biggest combiner I've got. That distinction still goes to, I believe, Pentastorm X, Helocarbot Pentastorm X. I have another combiner that I can't remember if it's a little bit taller or not. It's about the same height. We haven't looked at that one yet on the channel, but we will. We'll get to it. I already have the video cooking. But anyway, here is Tritan with Tobot Z, the regular size, like full-on standalone figure of Tobot Z, so you can see how they look together. And yeah, it's just Tritan is pretty darn big. I still don't understand. Like, this could have been red. This could have been red. This could have been blue, and this could have been orange. And like, yeah, the layout would have been different, but like, it would have been the same colors. I feel like it would have been fine, but whatever. So there's that. And now let us bring in our other Tobot combiner boys. Here is Troll. Actually, let's move you back over. So there we've got Tobot Z Troll and Tobot Z Big Trail. So yeah, they're smaller, but not that much smaller than Tritan. But then, of course, we've got to actually do the combination. And yeah, that combination is significantly larger than Tritan. Triton's a big boy, but he is not as big as Big Troll. Big Troll definitely towers over him, even if you don't count the shoulders. But, you know, Big Troll is made up of two robots that are almost the size of Tritan, combining to make one big guy, so it stands to reason if they don't quite measure up. Or that Tritan doesn't quite measure up, rather. And lastly, as I know this is what y'all have been waiting for, there is Tritan with the duck tank. And that'll do it for Tobot 2023. I don't know what it's officially called, but like the 2023 iteration of Tobot Tritan. And as I said, like this is actually a really cool combiner. The combination is actually really fun to do. I think it's cool. Z doesn't do too much, but it's still like there's enough going on that it's satisfying. I like the way the van halves kind of click together when you're going back into vehicle mode. That's cool. The way the whole combiner comes together is really neat. I mean, yeah, torso slotting into waist, that's not new, but I really like Tobot X's torso transformation and the way that Y comes together to make, you know, that armature going across and everything. That's also really neat. It's really, my only gripes with this guy are the outward shoulder motion, popping that thing up, like that's a little bit annoying, and I feel like that could probably be remedied by just carving a little bit of this plastic out of there so that this actually can come up without like knocking into stuff. But yeah, like aside from the outward motion being a little bit hindered because of the construction, like the only other thing that really bugs me is the waist section, which is not as bad in hand as it looks in like video and pictures, and it also kind of goes away when you do the little fan moding for the shoulders, and also the shoulders look so not great if you do like the default transformation, but like just a little bit of cheating with the kind of semi transforming it back just a little bit, it makes a massive difference aesthetically. So yeah, very cool set, very worth getting. As with most of the stuff, I got this guy through Gmarket, which I don't know if I'm going to remember to link to it or not. If I don't, you can search the channel. I do actually have a little walkthrough on like how I find stuff on Gmarket and go through the process of ordering. But it's usually cheaper to go through Gmarket than through like eBay sellers and stuff. Even though shipping from Gmarket is way more expensive than it used to be, it's still cheaper. Like I think after shipping, this guy still ended up costing about $20 to $25 less than if I were to get him through eBay. So something to consider. But anyway, that is all I've got to say about Tobot's 2023 version of Tritan. What do you all think of this guy, or the classic Tritan, or any of the other Tobot combiners? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and we're not doing triple changers yet. Again, I'm done with triple changes for a little while, so next video should also be relatively simple.